I have to stay vigilant. Do you understand?
Yeah.
All right. Are we safe?
Yes.
Are we secure?
Yes. Thank you for this food we are about to receive.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Local Prepper Project. Today, we're going to be talking about what we can really expect during a true SHTF situation in the city or suburbs. In this scenario, if you're in a rural area or in the country, basically, things are less likely to be this way, but it's not impossible that it could happen like that. Before we get into it, I'd like to thank Chase Medical for letting me shill for them. But seriously, when it comes to having medications on hand in a kind of an SHTF scenario, Jace Medical is going to be the best option for you. I've worked with other companies in the past, and they cannot compare to what Jace Medical actually offers with the Jace case. And they even have a program called Jace Daily for those people who require certain medications so that they don't get unalived. If you're interested, look for the link below. It says save some money or something like that. Find the Jace link, save some money, and kind of be prepared. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. First thing we're going to talk about is something called the community myth. Now, with the community myth, you think your neighbors are your allies because they're polite, they're helpful, and they're civilized on a daily basis. But civilization it's basically a performance held together by full grocery carts, working utilities, and the threat of law. Now, when those systems fail, the masks truly will come off. And you don't live among friends. You live among well-fed competitors. And you might want to think about that if you live in a city or a maybe like, I don't know, like a cul-de-sac or someplace where you think your neighbors are your neighbors. Unless you've broken bread with these people and their kids ride your school bus or ride your kid's school bus, they'll be competitors in an SHTF situation because it's very likely they haven't prepared. The next thing I want to talk about is the fragility of civilization. And domestication relies on comfort and consequence. And the supply chain is thinner than you think. So if you remove the comfort, this removes the restraints. And humanity reverts to, or should I say, humanity will revert from the citizen to an apex predator. And so you need to be aware of that because as we're going to discuss a little bit further on, the most dangerous person in this situation is a father trying to feed his children. The general idea that most people have understood in the preparedness space is something called the 9-meal theory, where every city has 9 meals, or basically 72 hours before it can fall into anarchy, or it should fall into anarchy according to this people smarter than the rest of us. The collapse follows a very predictable timeline, and it's something that we should probably be paying attention to. So the collapse timeline, basically from 0 to 24 hours is what they call the denial phase. And this is where the power fails, the internet dies, and people will assume that it's temporary. They eat all the fridge food, and they'll be joking with their neighbors, trying to figure out, hey, oh my God, let's have a bear party or something. Let's have a typhoon party or something like that. That's actually a real thing. If you're a Marine, you know what that is. And then there is this also persists with the illusion of normalcy because it hasn't even slightly sunk in yet that it may be worse than what we think. The hours from 24 to 48 after an incident happens, normally it's a power outage, is what they call the realization phase. And in the realization phase, grocery stores kind of get emptied within the first 4 hours of that time period. So within the first 24 to 48 hours, expect your grocery stores to be empty. There's no trucks that are coming. Caffeine and sugar withdrawal kind of set in because we live off that stuff. And people become irritable, anxious, and withdrawn. And this is when people start to walk up to their pantries and they begin inventorying their supplies. And they're starting to watch and see what you have. So kind of be aware within that first 24 to 48 hours that you are under observation. Now, Within the first 48 to 72 hours after an SHTF situation begins, major power outages, that kind of thing, this can become what they call the desperation phase. Now, in the desperation phase, your 9 meals are gone. Your children are starting to understand what hunger might be. Parents can actually hit a psychological breaking point. So ethics and civility kind of shut down, and survival instincts will start to kick in. And like I was saying before, now the most dangerous person will appear, and that's the good father. And the good father has no criminal record. He believes in his righteousness, and he will kill to feed his family if necessary. So this person who was extremely docile before all this happened can turn into like the guy you might really want to be watching out for. Now, some of the things that we need to talk about is something that we call the real threat. Now, the real threat, the enemy is not who you think it is, okay? It's not gangs, it's not criminals, it's the unprepared, desperate, morally justified neighbor, that dad or mom who has not prepared. They have to feed their kids no matter what, and you're in their way. The man, it's going to be that person who once returns your wallet, and that same type of person may kill you for water if they need to. The other thing that's within that real threat is you cannot fight the neighborhood. If you shoot one attacker, this signals that you have resources. If you attack, you will actually attract more people by doing that particular thing. So you must survive by outmaneuvering, not outgunning. Your AR will not solve this problem in the long run. This brings in the idea of blending in, also known as how to disappear in your own neighborhood without actually going anywhere. I guess the key point is to go dark immediately. No visible light, blackout curtains or contractor bags on your windows. Test for light leaks to make sure that it doesn't look like light's coming in and out of there at nighttime if you're using a light source. And also use only red headlamps on the inside because they're more difficult to see, and their light waves don't bounce around as much as white light does. Also, we need to think about something called odor discipline. Now, odor discipline, we're talking about cooking smells. A good cooking meal can travel for blocks when no one else is cooking because they ain't got no food. Hunger actually heightens scent tracking. This is proven in all types of animals. So you got to have some basic rules. And one, you may need to be eating some cold meals. It's not impossible, and you're not going to die if you eat something cold. Also, avoid cooking any meat because meat smells travel like distances. People can smell that stuff, okay? If you must boil water, do it at 3 a.m. in a sealed room, basically in the middle of night. Because you're going to not only be creating a heat signature, but you're also going to be creating a light signature. There could be visible steam as well. Also, something to think about too is having alternative ways of heating, okay, not just your bodies, but also cooking. And that means burning firewood, okay? And now we have the smell. You have the smell of a fire, and the smell of a fire will travel. So that's something to think about. Also, you need to have a trash plan. Trash reveals your inventory. If somebody starts going through your trash, it's going to reveal what you just consumed. You know, the wrappers, that kind of stuff. And you never want to put your garbage outside during an SHTF situation. You know, obviously, over an extended period of time, something's going to happen. But more than likely, you'll bug out before you run through everything that is wrapper related, that kind of stuff. Before you run out of a way to sanitize your logistical footprint. But also something that I recommend people do if they're stuck in that situation where they have to stay inside that house regardless is clean your wrappers. Clean your wrappers and then compress them down, smash them down, and then store inside a designated room. That way, it's not into your living space, but you're also not letting your trash outside to signal to people that you have lots of stuffs. Also, you might want to start to try and look looted already. Looters will eventually come around. They'll come looking for places and things, and they'll form looting parties at some point, and this is kind of what we kind of imagine things to happen, but at some point people start to get smart. You don't want to look fortified, you want to look abandoned if possible. Some of the tactics that you can use, not all of them are the greatest, but some of the tactics that you can use is to scatter debris in your yard. Also, maybe break a window, or leave your door slightly ajar, and of course, let your lawn die. Don't be watering your lawn in the apocalypse, okay? But the goal is to make looters think, already picked clean. This house has already been picked clean. Also, something else you can do is you can put the FEMA markings on your house, and it makes them understand that, hey, FEMA's already been here. This place has been picked clean. So those are some things to think about. Now, you also might want to have a decoy stash. When someone comes around begging, denying everything can trigger aggression, and you're going to have to be able to kind of figure that one out on the fly. But maybe offering them some small last scraps, maybe like old crackers, half-empty water, so it doesn't look like you're plussed up on everything, You remember that this is not charity, it's a toll, okay? And then you should develop something called your inner citadel. Now, with the inner citadel, you can't defend your entire house. It's just not possible unless you've got a fire team that stays awake 24/7. And that means you've got a squad. That would be really asking for it. You know what I'm saying? Really, really leaping if you had an entire squad. But you can't defend your entire house. You might want to prepare a hardened safe room and then reinforce that door, maybe a floor bar or a door bar in general. They make them. They're very easy. Monkeys can install them. And then supplies stored inside. And the idea is that if the house is breached, that you can hide and wait until the intruders assume that it's empty. People come in, they start going through things, it looks like it's been looted, and they're less apt to spend more time looking and move on to something that is the lower hanging fruit. And then one of the main survivor rules of this type of SHTF survival is that remember that OPSEC, or operational security, is greater than empathy. Helping neighbors is going to create dependency. It's going to create expectation, the possibility of future hostility when you say no. People that are used to getting the answer yes all the time are very stunned when somebody tells them no, especially in a life or death situation. Also, one simple act of charity reveals that, well, you're alive, you have resources, and that you can be exploited. So you in a zero resource environment, compassion becomes a lethal vulnerability. You can also do something called following the lifeboat rule. Now, with the lifeboat rule, your preps are calculated for your family. Giving away supplies subtracts several minutes from your children's lives. And a lifeboat that takes on everyone will sink. So no exceptions. Not a friendly neighbor, not the church lady, not the guy who lent you the tools last week before this was all a thing. Okay, so basically, guys, if we wrap this up into a neat little ball to consume and absorb and learn from, civilization is a dream that is manipulated by full stomachs. Also, when hunger takes over, the human animal returns. And, the collapse is fast, violent, and unforgiving. So you're not going to be like, oh, I think I'll go do this now. No, you need to be prepared. You need to trust your preparations, not the mask of your community. Now, I am a big advocate of community, but it has to be in the right place at the right time. And not all of you can be in a place like where I live or the environment that I'm in, okay? So pick your battles. Figure out which hill you're going to die on, because you may just do that. All right, guys. I want to thank you for hanging out with me. As usual, hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed, make sure that you do it now. If you want to contribute, there's some links below that will save you some money. Until the next time, stay vigilant, and I shall see you when I see you. Bye-bye.
That was was easy.